I remember the exact moment my life changed. I had spent years working toward this. Late nights hunched over textbooks, balancing a part-time job and squeezing in volunteer work just to make my college application shine. And then, finally, the letter arrived. I tore it open right there in the kitchen, the words blurring slightly as my heart pounded in my chest. Congratulations! We are pleased to award you the full-ride academic scholarship to Westbridge University. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My hands shook as I clutched the letter, overwhelmed by the validation of all my hard work. I had done it. I had secured my future. Across the room, Sophia lay sprawled on the couch, barely glancing up from her phone. "Oh, cool," she said, her voice flat. No excitement, no congratulations, just indifference. I didn't expect much. Sophia had never been the type to celebrate my achievements. Our parents had always excused it, saying she was different from me, that I was the ambitious one while Sophia was still figuring things out. I had long since stopped expecting them to hold her to the same standards as me. But if I had paid closer attention that day, if I had noticed the way her eyes lingered on my acceptance letter or the way her fingers tightened around her phone, maybe I would have seen it coming. "You should be so proud of your sister," I said to my mom later that evening, still clinging to the high of my acceptance. "This scholarship, it's going to change my life." Mom barely looked up from where she was chopping vegetables. "That's great, sweetheart," she said. "I just hope Sophia figures out what she wants to do soon. She's feeling really lost these days." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Mom, I worked for this. Maybe if she—" Mom sighed and put the knife down. "Emma, your sister just needs time. Not everyone has things figured out like you." It was always the same conversation. Sophia got to be the lost soul, the one given space to find herself, while I had to be responsible, put together. I had been carrying my own weight, and then some for years, while Sophia floated through life on their unconditional support. I should have known she wasn't going to let me have this. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparations, filing documents, packing my bags, confirming paperwork with the school. I left my college folder on my desk, double-checking everything daily, making sure I didn't miss a single form or deadline. I had no idea that Sophia had been watching me carefully, waiting for the right moment. One day when I got home from work, I found my college folder slightly out of place. The papers looked disturbed, shuffled in a way I hadn't left them. My stomach twisted. I brushed it off. Maybe Mom had moved it while cleaning. Maybe I had forgotten how I left it. I had no reason to suspect my own sister. The rejection letter arrived 3 days before I was supposed to leave. "We regret to inform you that due to incomplete documentation, your scholarship has been revoked." I stared at the words, my mind blank. This had to be a mistake. I had turned in everything. I had checked, double-checked, even emailed the admissions office weeks ago. Panic clawed up my throat as I grabbed my phone and called the university. "Hello, this is Emma Carter," I said breathlessly. "I just received notice that my scholarship was revoked, but I turned in everything on time. There must be a mix-up." There was a pause. "Oh, Miss Carter," the woman on the line said. "We have you checked in already. You arrived on campus last week." My blood ran cold. "No," I whispered. "No, I didn't." But someone had, and I already knew who. I drove to Westbridge that night, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. The moment I reached the dorms, I sprinted down the hallway, ignoring the confused looks from students passing by. Room 302. My room. The door was slightly open. I pushed it all the way. There, sitting on my bed, surrounded by my things, was Sophia. She looked up, startled, but quickly schooled her face into a smirk. "Emma," she said coolly, "you shouldn't be here." My entire body trembled. "What the hell did you do?" Sophia sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "It's not a big deal. I just borrowed your opportunity. You'll get another one." My mind reeled. "You stole my scholarship, my future." "You'll be fine," she said dismissively, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "You're smart. You'll figure something else out." I saw red. I wanted to scream, to grab her and shake her, to make her understand what she had taken from me. Instead, I turned on my heel and walked out. Because if I stayed, I might never forgive myself for what I'd do. When I confronted my parents, they didn't believe me. "Sophia wouldn't do something like that," Mom insisted, shaking her head. You must have misunderstood the situation. Dad crossed his arms. Why would she need to steal your scholarship? She had her own plans. No, she didn't, I cried. She never had a plan, and you both know it. She took mine because she knew you'd never stop her. Sophia, standing in the doorway, sniffled dramatically. I just wanted a chance too, she said softly. Why does Emma get everything? I didn't mean to hurt you, Em. And just like that, they turned against me. See? Mom said. She just wanted to prove herself. You should be supporting her. I felt my heart shatter. They weren't going to punish her. They weren't even going to acknowledge what she had done. In their eyes, she was the victim, and I was the villain for not understanding. I packed my bags that night. There was nothing left for me here. I had spent my whole life trying to be the daughter they wanted, trying to earn their approval, their love, but I would never be Sophia, and that meant I would never be enough for them. With no plan and nowhere to go, I walked out of the house, leaving my family and my old life behind. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I'd never come back, not until I had built something so much bigger, so much better, that they would have no choice but to see me, not as Sophia's twin, but as Emma Carter, the girl who had been robbed of everything, only to rise higher than they ever imagined. I never thought I'd be the type of person to run away. But after Sophia stole my future, after my parents dismissed my pain like it was an inconvenience rather than a betrayal, there was nothing left for me in that house. With no plan, no direction, and only a couple $100 to my name, I found myself signing up for a summer retreat program deep in the mountains. The pamphlet promised solitude, healing, and self-discovery. I didn't know if any of those things were possible for me, but at that point, I had nothing to lose. The retreat was nestled in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by towering trees and crystal-clear lakes. It was beautiful, peaceful, everything my life hadn't been in weeks. The first few days passed in a blur. I hiked during the day, forcing myself to breathe in the fresh mountain air, hoping it would somehow cleanse the bitterness from my heart. At night, I sat by the campfire, watching others laugh and bond while I stayed silent, lost in thoughts I couldn't escape. I didn't belong here. Everyone else seemed to have come for a temporary escape. City workers needing a break, students on summer vacation, retirees rediscovering adventure. But me? I had nowhere else to go. I didn't just feel lost, I was lost. It happened on the 6th day. I had wandered off the marked trails, craving a moment away from the noise of the group. The deeper I ventured into the woods, the quieter everything became. Like the forest was swallowing the world whole. Then I saw it. At first it was just a flicker. Something shimmering beneath the roots of an old tree. Sunlight hit the object at just the right angle, making it glint through the dirt and fallen leaves. Curious, I crouched down and brushed away the earth, revealing a delicate antique necklace with a single oval-shaped charm. The metal was aged but smooth, the design intricate with small etchings I couldn't quite make out. The moment my fingers wrapped around it, a strange warmth spread through my palm. It felt alive. I should have left it there. I didn't believe in superstitions or fate, and I certainly wasn't the type to think a random object buried in the woods could mean anything. And yet, something deep inside me whispered that this necklace wasn't ordinary, that it had been waiting for me. Before I could overthink it, I clasped it around my neck. A rush of warmth shot through my chest, like a gentle current of energy, tingling against my skin. It wasn't painful, just strange. For the first time since my life fell apart, something inside me felt right. I inhaled deeply, my shoulders relaxing for the first time in weeks. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was just so desperate for something good to happen that my mind was playing tricks on me. But as I stood up, dusting off my hands, I had no idea that my life was about to change in ways I never could have imagined. That night, I sat alone outside the main lodge, staring up at the stars, still feeling the odd warmth of the necklace against my skin. Then my phone buzzed. At first, I ignored it. No one ever called me anymore. But when I finally glanced at the screen, my breath hitched. It was an email from Crestwood University, a full-ride scholarship offer. I read the message 3 times before my brain caught up. Crestwood wasn't just any university. It was the university. More prestigious, more competitive than Westbridge, the school Sophia had stolen from me. It didn't make sense. I had never applied there. Had someone recommended me? Was this a mistake? I was still reeling from the shock when another counselor from the retreat approached me. We were reviewing applications for a seasonal staff position, she said with a warm smile, and your name came up. We'd love to offer you a job for the rest of the summer. A job, stability, a scholarship to a school beyond my wildest dreams, all within hours. I barely managed a nod, my heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. Something was happening, something impossible. And deep down, I knew it had started the moment I put on the necklace. Over the next few days, I started noticing a pattern. Little things at first, always catching the last available seat on a crowded shuttle, picking the right line at the cafeteria that moved the fastest. Then bigger things, finding an old $20 bill in my pocket exactly when I needed it, overhearing a conversation that led to an unexpected networking opportunity. And then there were the people. Strangers gravitated toward me. Opportunities unfolded effortlessly. It was as if the world was aligning in my favor, one stroke of luck at a time. I wasn't just lucky, I was unstoppable. I had spent my entire life fighting for scraps, watching Sophia take everything that was supposed to be mine. But now the universe was handing me something better. For once, I didn't have to beg for a chance. For once, life was choosing me. I didn't understand the necklace's power, but I knew it was real, and I wasn't going to waste it. The girl who had been thrown away, the sister who had been betrayed. I wasn't her anymore. I was someone new, someone who had earned her future, not stolen it. Sophia had taken my dream, but I was about to build something even bigger. And when the day came that our paths crossed again, she would finally see the sister she had underestimated. And this time, I wouldn't be the one left behind. For the first time in my life, I was free. No more parents who dismissed me. No more sister who stole from me. No more feeling like I wasn't enough. The moment I stepped onto Crestwood University's campus, I knew this was my fresh start. No one here knew my past. No one saw me as Sophia's twin. I was just Emma, and I was going to make sure that name meant something. My first few weeks at Crestwood were surreal. I had spent so long believing that I would never get to attend college, that my future had been stolen from me. And yet, here I was, walking through a campus even grander than the one I had originally planned to attend. I buried myself in my classes, determined to make the most of every opportunity. I didn't just want to do well, I wanted to excel. And I did. The strangest thing was how effortlessly everything seemed to fall into place. I always got the best professors, the best study groups, the best research projects. If there was an exclusive seminar or workshop, I somehow found myself on the invitation list without even asking. I knew I was smart. I had always worked hard. But this was something more. The necklace around my neck hummed with warmth every time I faced a challenge, as if reminding me that luck was now on my side. By the end of my first semester, people were starting to notice me. Professors who had barely acknowledged other students went out of their way to mentor me. Emma, you have a natural talent for financial analytics, one professor told me after class. There's an internship at Weston and Company that would be perfect for you. I can put in a good word. Weston and Company wasn't just any company. It was one of the top financial firms in the country. Their internship program was notoriously difficult to get into. But just a few days after applying, I got the acceptance email. I didn't question it anymore. The necklace was working in my favor. At first, I wondered if I was relying on it too much. Was it really me succeeding, or was it the necklace? But then I realized something. The necklace might have opened doors, but I was the one walking through them. No one handed me knowledge on a silver platter. I still had to work hard, prove myself, and show up every day ready to be better than I was yesterday. The necklace didn't do the work for me. It just gave me the chance to prove what I had always known. I was meant for something bigger. Before, I had always hesitated when it came to taking risks. Would I be good enough? Would people take me seriously? But now I knew I belonged. When industry leaders visited the university for networking events, I didn't shrink into the background. I introduced myself with confidence, shaking hands and making an impression. One of those handshakes led to my next big break, an offer for a paid research assistant position with a high-profile economist. Your professor speaks very highly of you, the economist said during our meeting. I need someone with both intelligence and ambition. You seem like the perfect fit. I walked out of that meeting knowing that my future was no longer just possible. It was guaranteed. There were moments when I wondered, was the necklace truly magic? Or was it just giving me the push I had always needed? Maybe I had always been capable of achieving great things, but fear and self-doubt had held me back. Maybe the necklace wasn't changing the world around me. It was changing me. I tested it sometimes. Would I still get the right opportunities if I wasn't wearing it? Would things still fall into place? The answer was always the same. The necklace was a tool, but I was the one using it. I no longer feared failure. I no longer hesitated. I acted. And that was the biggest difference between who I was before and who I was now. 4 years passed in what felt like an instant. I graduated at the top of my class, receiving multiple job offers before I even had my diploma in hand. Weston and Company, the firm I had interned with years ago, offered me a full-time position with a six-figure starting salary. I took it without hesitation. And then, just like before, I rose. Within 2 years, I climbed higher in the company than most people did in a decade. I learned fast, adapted even faster, and built connections with the most influential people in the industry. Soon, I wasn't just an employee, I was a leader. And when an opportunity came to start my own financial firm, backed by investors who believed in my talent, I took the leap without a second thought. Sophia had stolen my future once, but I had built something better without her. And soon, whether she liked it or not, she was going to see exactly what I had become. Success didn't come overnight. It took years of early mornings, late nights, and endless strategy meetings. It took making bold decisions, trusting my instincts, and proving myself to people who underestimated me. But I did it. I wasn't just successful, I was powerful. At Weston and Company, I made a name for myself. It wasn't just about climbing the ranks. I made sure that every move I made left an impact. My ability to predict market trends, manage high-stakes investments, and build lasting relationships with clients set me apart. By the time I was 27, I was already an executive, one of the youngest in the industry. People who had doubted me before now looked to me for answers. My name was becoming a brand, a force to be reckoned with, and I loved it. But my success wasn't just about proving myself. It was about building something bigger than what was stolen from me. And fate was about to give me the perfect opportunity. It started as a passing conversation in a boardroom. Our company was reviewing potential acquisitions, firms struggling financially that we could buy out and restructure for profit. One name caught my attention immediately: Wilkins Financial. I recognized it instantly. Wilkins Financial was Sophia's employer. I kept my face neutral, pretending it was just another name on the list, but my heart was racing. I had spent years pushing thoughts of Sophia and my parents to the back of my mind. They had stolen my future, but I had built my own. I didn't need them anymore. But now fate was handing me the perfect chance to turn the tables. I dug deeper. Wilkins Financial was in serious debt. They had overexpanded, made bad investments, and were on the verge of collapse. The best part? My firm, Weston and Company, had the power to acquire them completely. I didn't even have to manipulate the situation. It was already happening. But I could make sure that when the deal went through, I had full control. I played my cards carefully. I worked behind the scenes, positioning myself as the lead strategist for the acquisition. The senior executives trusted my expertise, and with a few well-placed conversations, I made sure they saw Wilkins Financial as the perfect buyout target. No one questioned my involvement. To them, it was just another deal. To me, it was personal. There was something poetic about it. Years ago, Sophia had stolen my future by lying her way into my scholarship, taking my place. Now, I was about to own the company she worked for, and she had no idea. I imagined the moment she would realize it. She'd spent her entire life using shortcuts, expecting things to be handed to her, but soon she'd learn the truth. Success wasn't stolen, it was earned. And I was about to teach her that lesson in the most brutal way possible. The universe has a way of balancing the scales. I never believed in revenge, not truly. Success was always the best form of payback. But fate had handed me something better than I could have ever planned. And I wasn't going to waste the opportunity. Sophia had always been someone who relied on shortcuts. In school, she copied my notes instead of studying. In college, she used my stolen scholarship to coast through classes without any real effort. And in the corporate world, she relied on connections and charm to slide into a mid-level job at Wilkins Financial. For years, she had been living the life she stole from me. But there was one thing Sophia had never learned: how to actually work for something. The truth was, she was mediocre. She had no real skills, no leadership ability, no ability to think strategically. She had always expected things to be handed to her, and now, for the first time in her life, they weren't. The first cracks in her perfect little world started to show when rumors of the acquisition spread through the company. Whispers of layoffs, restructuring, and new leadership sent panic through the office halls. Sophia, ever the opportunist, tried to position herself as someone too valuable to lose. She started dressing sharper, working late. Not because she was actually doing anything useful, but because she thought appearing busy would save her job. But Sophia had never understood that in the real world, appearances don't mean anything when you have no substance. When the list of at risk employees was released, her name was at the top. For the first time in her life, no one was there to protect her. The day before the final decision was to be made, Sophia sat at her desk, clicking anxiously through her emails. Her usual air of confidence was gone. I imagined how she must have felt, heart pounding, palms sweaty, desperately trying to figure out how to fix this. Sophia wasn't used to uncertainty, she wasn't used to losing, and it was delicious. She did what she always did when things didn't go her way. She looked for someone to save her. She booked a meeting with HR. She pleaded her case, insisting she was a valuable employee. She even tried turning on the charm, flashing the same sweet smile that had worked on our parents, on professors, on everyone who had ever let her get away with things. But this wasn't some college professor she could manipulate. This was business. And in business, results mattered. I watched from behind tinted glass windows as she paced the office later that afternoon. She was visibly rattled, hair slightly out of place, hands clenched into fists at her sides. Sophia had always been effortlessly put together, always sure of herself. But now, she looked like someone on the edge of losing everything, and she had no idea that I was the one pulling the strings. I wasn't going to fire her. That would be too easy. Instead, I was going to let her work, for the first time in her life. I had waited years for this moment, not for revenge, not to gloat, but for justice. Sophia had stolen everything from me. She had taken my name, my scholarship, my future, and worn it like a mask, like it belonged to her all along. Now, she was just another employee struggling to keep up in a world she was never meant to survive in. And I was the one who put her there. I didn't fire her. That would have been too kind. Instead, I let her stay, but I made sure she earned it. Sophia had always floated through life with minimal effort. She had never worked hard, never struggled, never truly earned anything. So I gave her a position that required work, a demanding analyst role that forced her to handle real data, draft financial reports, and prepare presentations for high-stakes clients. No fluff, no shortcuts, just raw, grueling work. I watched from my office as she arrived on her first day under my leadership, blissfully unaware of who had put her there. She walked in, head held high, believing she could charm her way through anything. But confidence could only carry her so far, because for the first time, she was completely on her own. The cracks started showing by week 2. Sophia was drowning. She sat hunched over her desk, staring at a spreadsheet like it was written in an alien language. Her fingers hovered uselessly over her keyboard, her expression one of frustration and growing panic. By week 3, her emails became more desperate, subtly begging coworkers for help. At first, people gave her the benefit of the doubt, but patience ran thin fast. Did she even read the brief? I overheard one analyst mutter to another after a particularly disastrous meeting. She's clueless, another whispered. She was used to being admired, praised, and protected. Now, she was just another struggling employee, forced to prove herself in a world that didn't care about her excuses. The realization sets in. I saw the moment reality hit her. It was a Monday morning. She had been assigned to prepare a financial risk report for a high-profile client. It was basic work, the kind of thing any competent analyst could handle. But Sophia? She had no idea what she was doing. She stared at her screen, eyes darting from one tab to another, searching for an answer that wasn't there. Her hands trembled as she typed, deleting and retyping the same sentence over and over again. By the time the meeting rolled around, she was a wreck. She stammered through her presentation, fumbled her words, and couldn't answer any of the client's questions. Silence hung in the room as the senior executives exchanged disappointed glances. The lead partner sighed. "We'll have someone else redo this report." Sophia's face burned with humiliation. She had never been told she wasn't good enough, never been publicly dismissed like that. She didn't belong here, and now everyone knew it. Emma watches in silence. From my office, I watched it all unfold. Her struggles, her growing desperation. I thought I would feel satisfied seeing her fail. I thought I would feel vindicated. But the truth? I just felt nothing, because this wasn't revenge. This was justice. For the first time in her life, Sophia was experiencing what she had forced me to go through: doubt, struggle, failure. And unlike me, she didn't have the grit to survive it. She had always relied on shortcuts, on stealing, on me. Now she had nothing, and she still had no idea who was responsible. Not yet, but soon. Very, very soon. I knew this day would come. For weeks, I had watched Sophia struggle under the weight of real work, something she had never had to do in her life. I watched her stumble through deadlines, try and fail to keep up with the expectations of her job, and slowly realized that charm alone wouldn't save her. And now she was about to realize something even more important: that I was the one pulling the strings all along. At exactly 3 p.m., she was scheduled to meet with the CEO for a performance evaluation. That's what the email said. But really, it was the moment of truth. She had no idea what was waiting for her behind that door. I sat at my desk in the massive corner office, watching the clock tick down the last few seconds. I had waited years for this, and yet I felt nothing but calm certainty. Then, the knock. 3 sharp raps against the polished glass door. "Come in," I said. The door creaked open, and there she was, Sophia, standing in the doorway, looking polished but slightly nervous. She didn't recognize me right away. "Hi," she said, forcing a pleasant smile. I got the email about my evaluation. I wasn't expecting to meet the CEO directly, but and then she saw me. I watched as her smile froze, her eyes widened, and her face paled in realization. "You." Her voice was barely a whisper. I folded my hands on the desk, keeping my expression calm, unreadable. "Hello, Sophia," I said smoothly. "Take a seat." She didn't move. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I tilted my head. "You look surprised." Sophia let out a shaky laugh, but there was no humor in it. This is a joke, right?" she said, her voice almost desperate. "You can't be—" "I am," I interrupted, my voice firm. "CEO, majority shareholder, and yes, the one who's been making sure you worked for everything these past few weeks." Her knees buckled, and she collapsed into the chair across from me, still looking like she was in some kind of nightmare. This can't be real," she muttered. You don't even belong in this company." I smiled, leaning back. "You're right about one thing. I built my own, but then I bought this one." Her eyes flickered with something: fear, realization, and most of all, humiliation. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the desk, my voice steady. "I know what you did, Sophia," I said. "I know everything." She swallowed. I don't. "The scholarship," I continued, not letting her lie her way out of it. "The stolen identity. The years of lying to yourself. I know it all." She gripped the arms of the chair, her knuckles turning white. "You thought I would never recover, didn't you?" I asked. "You thought I'd be stuck, that without that opportunity, I'd never amount to anything." Sophia didn't answer. I smiled. "But you," I continued, "even with that scholarship, you're still nothing." She flinched, because deep down she knew it was true. Even when she stole my opportunity, she still failed. And I had built something far greater than she ever could. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Sophia finally opened her mouth, her voice small. What happens now?" I studied her for a long moment. Here she was, the golden child, the one who always got away with everything, the one who never had to work for a single thing in her life. But now, she was powerless, and she knew it. Finally, I stood up and walked around the desk until I was standing over her. And then I smiled. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, but because for the first time I realized she didn't matter anymore. I had won not by bringing her down, but by lifting myself higher. "That's up to you," I said, my voice steady. She looked up, confused. "You always relied on others to make things easy," I said. "Let's see if you can make your own luck for once." I turned, walking toward the door. I didn't need to look back. Because Sophia's fate? It was her own to decide now. As I stepped out of that office, leaving Sophia to face her own choices, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't triumph, it wasn't revenge. It was freedom. For so many years, I had carried the weight of betrayal, anger, and loss on my shoulders. I had spent nights wondering how different my life could have been if Sophia hadn't stolen what was meant for me, if my parents had loved me equally, if I had been given the same chances as her. But now I knew the truth. I had never needed their validation. I had never needed their approval. And I had certainly never needed Sophia's shortcuts. Everything I had, my success, my strength, my future, I built on my own. As I walked through the sleek halls of my company, I thought about Sophia sitting in that chair, staring at the reality she had spent a lifetime avoiding. For years, she had manipulated, lied, and stolen to get ahead. And now, for the first time, she had to face herself without anyone else to shield her from the consequences of her own actions. Would she finally change? Would she finally learn that success isn't something you take, it's something you earn? I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't care. Her choices were her own now. She could sink or she could rise. That was no longer my burden to carry. I stepped outside, the crisp air filling my lungs. The city buzzed around me, full of opportunity, full of endless possibilities. I wasn't the girl who had left home, broken and discarded anymore. I was Emma Carter, CEO, leader, survivor. I had proven to myself, to the world, to anyone who had ever doubted me, that I didn't need luck. I had resilience, I had determination, I had myself, and that was more than enough. With one last deep breath, I walked forward, toward my future, toward everything I had built, and toward a life that was mine and mine alone.